Feeding the ducks. The name of this,
I like it.
Of today's.
Is that literally what it's song? Is that
You just
what
picture
the song
yourself
is called?
like sitting by a pond feeding ducks with this music going.
It is.
Nice shirt, Mike.
They have the quack going on.
Thanks, buddy. You know, I was inspired. I saw several people wearing these at the track. Alex Laughlin, Corey Reed had one on in his post-race interview after he won.
Did you see? Did you see that Logan was wearing it on Fernando Quadra's team? He had the hat on.
He had the hat
on TV.
Oh, yeah, I haven't gotten a hat yet.
Because you gave him the hat, and then I told you to hold mine, and I would get it back.
And I told you, just like letting me borrow a shaker,
No way.
Yeah,
a protein shaker, you'll never see that bad boy again.
I don't have one because it's a flat bill, and I can't. Flat bills don't work with the solar panel. It has to be. It has to be a Richardson.
That just means you can
a
only wear
112
backwards.
or a
Waffle style,
Yukon.
My boy Taylor hooked me up with a hat though.
No, yeah.
Comiskey. We were gonna train JT up to pronounce his last name. Do you want a shot at it real quick here in front of God and the World Wide Web?
Oh, Comiskey.
You did good, buddy.
Good job.
Let's give it up. Let's give it up. JT pronounced the name right.
Taylor ought to be pretty happy because I can butcher a name.
Like nobody's business, man.
You
You're
got the
best
full
there ever was.
setup.
Comiskey.
You got a hat, shirt. You got the full prize pack.
Are you wearing a Taylor Comiskey shirt too?
No, but he got one.
Oh, okay. Did he give you that chain?
Yeah.
That's nice.
No, he didn't give me a chain.
It'd be awesome if he did, though.
No, I pulled someone out the other night, and I just threw it around my neck afterwards.
Yeah, it never stops. Yeah. Can't stop, won't stop. All right, roll the intro.
I gotta find it first. You think I'm?
What do you mean? You're supposed to? I'm supposed to be able to very smoothly.
This is like the longest week in the history of weeks for me.
Nobody to blame but yourself for that one, big boy.
That's true. It's called double duty.
And a lot of other people have JT to blame for their long weekend and week also.
Hey, it was a good one. Yeah, and Jason the bartender and his
Jason.
Shout out to the Embassy Suites.
Yeah, for the 4-in-1, 4 whiskey, one pop.
There's no doubt.
It's terrible.
Let's go.
Listen, I've never had any problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way. Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do. I respect the history, I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. It's uncut, it's unfiltered. This is the show of shows. The biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred. This is the great American motorsport. Drag racing. Prove me wrong. I'll wait. Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine checking in. It is Wednesday, September 6th, 2023. As always, we got a barn burner of a show lined up for you today, breaking down all the biggest happenings in the sport of drag racing. Before we dive into this episode of the show, I want to tell you guys thanks. Thank you so much for being a part of this each and every week. We appreciate it more than we can ever put into words. Remember, do your part to help us spread the gospel of drag racing. Click like, click share, click subscribe if you're watching along on YouTube. Make sure you don't miss any of our content as it rolls out. But I tell you what, guys, fresh off a big weekend at the NHRA U.S. Nationals, I got to take in a few days myself. Big old time there outside of Indianapolis, Indiana, without question. Probably one of my favorite events the entire year. Just, you hear it all the time, but there's just something about Indy. Can't wait to break that down with you, as well as the yellowbullet.com Nationals up at the house that Jim Halsey built, Cecil County, Maryland. Cecil County Dragway, huge event. I was thinking about, we'll break down some of the numbers, but man, this was a huge weekend for the sport of drag race, and I can't wait to dive into it with you guys. But before we get any further along, let me introduce my co-hosts here on the Wes Buck Show, Mike Carpenter, JT Hudson. What's up, boys? You have fun in Indy this weekend?
Yeah,
I miss you already.
A little too much, man. A little too much fun with JT.
I miss you guys.
Everybody was missing. JT left on Saturday, and it was like just quiet and
I felt bad
calm.
for you guys because
Yep.
I was about 2 hours away from home, and I kind of hit a wall. You know, I'm like, wow, I am tired. And I thought, man, you guys have got to be hurting out at the track in that heat.
Nobody's having as much fun as you were having, just
Yeah.
for the record.
I was running hot laps, you know. I mean, you
You were doing something. Oh my goodness, bro.
gotta get your steps in.
I got my steps in there. I tell you what, man, we bebopped around that joint. I got it. Let's just dive into the 69th annual NHRA U.S. Nationals, the Dodge Power Brokers NHRA U.S. Nationals. What a momentous weekend for the sport of drag racing. We spent some time just driving around the pits and kind of really, and I think everybody should do this. We probably don't do this often enough, but just go kind of appreciate what's happening. I mean, if you saw any of those aerial photos that Mark Rebelis was posting on Twitter, or X, excuse me, whatever it's called, formerly known as Twitter, it was awe-inspiring at the bare minimum. Nearly 900 cars, I think just shy of 900 cars entered into the NHRA U.S. Nationals. And when you're there and you just, the humanity, the campgrounds, the amount of motorhomes, when we were driving around looking for our buddy Tom's motorhome, we couldn't find it. I mean, it was like, that was crazy, right? I mean, we were looking around going, if we calculated how much money his motorhomes there is.
His directions were great.
He said, there's a water tower in the distance. It's like, there's a water tower in the distance for the whole track.
For everyone on the track.
We could not find it, but we found new areas that we had never seen before, I think. And that was just on the, I guess, off to the right-hand side of the track, or off the right lane. The whole other campground that's over to the left side before you make the turn to run behind the track, that was packed out. We never even made it over there to that section, but I did see a Double O shit show big video,
motorhomes and stuff that there is. I mean, like, you're just like, holy cow, the money that's in those, just that stuff is just unreal.
There was a good video, JT. You missed this one. I don't know how these guys pulled this off without you, but it was like 10 guys on a golf cart, and they had built a ramp and ramped the thing off of it, and then threw everybody off when it landed. So that was maybe a little bit of leftover excitement from Brainerd made its way to Indy.
I saw some guys.
I think you're right. Like driving around, we stopped at several different places, and it's just fun to talking to everybody out there as well. I think I guess that's probably what the zoo is, basically is. So I get it, man. I could spend all day out there.
Yeah, I think I was having a ball, like going and like we spent an hour talking to Troy from M&M Transmission, and it's just like going and being. You think about. I remember having a conversation way long back with Brett Kepner, and we were talking about what the NHRA had done so masterfully, and it was they have created this social happening in the sport of drag racing that takes place 22 times a year. That is essentially like the can't miss party in the neighborhood, you know what I mean? And the neighborhood being drag racing, and Indy is that like times 10,000 to just the people. There are people at the NHRA U.S. Nationals that you won't see at a drag race the rest of the year. I mean, especially if you start talking about like movers and shakers in our sport. I think any young aspiring drag racer, anybody that's looking to do business in the sport of drag racing, anybody who's trying to make some connections, you basically have to go to Indy, because anybody that you want to talk to, I mean, legends and icons and like real high level executives from all these different brands that operate in our space, in the drag racing space, they're there, as well as a whole world of people that support those entities or support those people. It's one of the ultimate, I think, C and B scene events that happen on the schedule. And there were so many things that happened. Let's get right into it. Let's dive into kind of the hot topics of the week. Don't want to just talk about the NHRA U.S. Nationals. As always, there's a ton of stuff going on in the sport of drag racing. We just run out of time to talk about all of it. But I mean, I think, guys, let's just kind of go through some of our personal, thoughts. And I mean, I think it goes without saying, perhaps the highlight of the entire weekend for fans, racers, everybody that has a real connection to the sport of drag racing, Ron Capps' tribute to Don the Snake Prudhomme, bringing back the old Hot Wheels livery, just masterfully done. Mike, you're a designer. You know the intricacies of nailing the wrap, nailing the fire suit, nailing the crew jerseys, nailing the hero. They just did an incredible job. And
Yeah.
I think the best tribute car of all time. That's my take.
Possibly. I mean, I think a lot of that also is just how universally respected and beloved Snake is. And he was riding around. It's so funny. I think I saw Snake more than any other person at the track. He was just making laps, like he was in a parade, kind of driving his golf cart with his buddy on it and just waving, like he was just chill and just having a good time. And then to end up in the winner's circle with that thing had to really cap off an awesome weekend for him.
Cap off. I like it.
Oh, well done.
Yeah.
Well
Write that
played.
down. That was
Well
not even
played.
intentional.
Man, and it's
I'm gonna claim it though.
To me, to see the reaction from fans, I'm just trying to think of like the last time there was an unveiling, the last time there was anything related to a car's paint job that had that kind of fanfare and buzz surrounding it. Like,
well, we talked to the designer. What was that? What was his name? It escapes me right now. You and Brett talked to him, and he was sketching pictures. He did one for Tom from DHR. He had it in his motorhome when we went over there, doing quick sketches of the car, and he was giving us some of the details about the process of it and how he worked the Napa logo into that row of stars that runs across the hood and the roof and the deck lid. Just little touches like that let you know it's still a sponsored car, a modern car, but retain the original design as much as possible.
I think that though there's like a lesson or a takeaway from the whole deal. Ron Capps, like in his winner circle interview throughout the course of the weekend, every time I talked to him, he was so quick to identify how much he appreciated Napa allowing this to happen. And you think that is something that just spoke to me, because you talk about being like secure. Being secure in your partnership, being secure in your relationship with your driver, with your athlete, which Ron Capps, and knowing that the affiliation between Napa Auto Parts and Ron Capps kind of rises above whatever paint schemes on the car. They've done such a good job of pairing those two up, right? It is a well-known thing that Ron Capps drives the Napa car. Right? I mean, he is the definition of a sponsored driver, a brand ambassador for Napa. And to see them say, hey, everybody knows Ron Capps drives for us. Like, even if our logo is a little smaller or a little less prominent, it's not going to have a negative impact. Matter of fact, this tribute opportunity is only going to bring more eyeballs and more attention and buzz to what we're doing. And I hope that it kind of demonstrated to everybody else in the pits that probably is a little weary of making that decision or pushing towards something like that because they're afraid of upsetting the apple cart with their sponsor or not having the logo big enough. Mike and I always joke about, like, everybody wants to make my logo bigger cream, right? No matter what the relationship is, it's like, hey, can we make my logo just a little bit bigger, like by 400%?
It takes a while to build that brand equity. And Ron, I just kind of thought about this, most of these cars, even the Force cars, even a lot of these heavily sponsored cars rotate paint schemes. We see it all we see it in NASCAR. Ron Capps' car is almost always the Napa car, or it's some Napa sub brand. It's the Napa Auto Care Center car. It's whatever. So you have to earn that to be able to kind of pull that off. If this is just a 4-race deal and you're like, oh, but one of your races, we're going to take all your logos off and put on this throwback scheme, you can't do that. So it's like the payoff for being so loyal to Ron and his program, and vice versa, Ron to Napa as well. So it kind of reminds me, like, running one ad in Drag Illustrated, one small ad, and then
right,
you can't do that. You've got to run it since day one, like Mark Mickey or M&M Transmission. Then he can pull off all kinds of different stuff in his ads every month, where he highlights other racers and everything instead of making it an M&M focused ad with products and stuff. So it's like you have to build up to that.
It's a good point, man, because that is something that takes time. I talk anytime I'm having like a marketing or sales marketing conversation, I'm quick to remind folks that, like, we all know that McDonald's sells French fries. By God, they sure remind us, right? I mean, billboards, radio ads, television. I mean, it's consistency, but it's staying top of mind. in this day and age, man, you fade out real fast. And if you're not staying in front of people, you will not remain top of mind. So I just think the whole situation this past weekend I think that was the story of the weekend, honestly. I mean, there was obviously a lot of storylines, got points implications, but the way that whole weekend went for Ron and just the way they did it, the fire suit was dead on, the crew shirts. I was actually over in the DSR hospitality at one point, and people were like trying to find those crew shirts. Like, how do I get one of those? What do I got to do? And I mean, God only knows how many of them they could have sold I guarantee you they end up doing an additional run of them, because that's like an item now. And maybe there's a play to just not letting, they're exclusive, they're gone. But boy, oh boy, I think they could make some
T-shirt that looked
money
a lot
of those.
like them.
Yeah.
You know, and
I mean, they could
yeah.
make some coin on the back of that deal, but just masterfully executed. And then to see Ron like go on and win the thing. I mean, I wanted to touch on that. Winners from the weekend: Top Fuel, Antron Brown, of course, as we mentioned, Ron Capps taking the win in Funny Car, Matt Hartford scoring the win in Pro Stock, and we got to talk about that, as well as Matt Smith taking the win in Pro Stock Motorcycle, and Chris Thorne winning in NHRA Pro Mod. Really an incredible weekend as a whole for the sport of drag racing, like I said. But I was watching the racing on Monday, and if I was just trying to wrap my head around the show that I was seeing, to start the day with Top Fuel, some killer drag racing, Funny Car, Pro Stock,
at
Pro
10
Stock
a.m.
Bike, Pro-Mod, right? That
And
was
they
a
said that's
badass show.
Yeah, that's a unique challenge too. I heard more than one crew chief talk about that the weather, instead of already being hot or at its peak, it's still coming up. You know, temperature's still coming up, weather's changing, humidity's burning off a little bit, and having to be ready for that first round. So it's, to me, the guys that were able to navigate all the different conditions, because, you know, Thursday was fairly cool, then Friday getting a little warmer, Saturday a little warmer, Sunday a little warmer, and then Monday was hot too. And several guys like Matt Hartford, to me, comes to mind, went wire to wire, number one qualifier to the win, which in those changing conditions, you know, says a lot about being able to adjust that car to get down changing track conditions, changing weather. So yeah, some impressive performances in the pro categories.
It extended beyond that. As I was watching the race unfold, it's like, oh my God, Comp Eliminator was a barn burner, Top Alcohol Dragster barn burner, Top Alcohol Funny Car barn burner. We got the Factory X shootout, which I thought was badass. Factory Stock Eliminator. The entire show on race day, that's hard to top. I mean, when you talk about that many cars, and I do think there was all sorts of challenges they faced. You mentioned the weather, holy moly, like you said, cold to hot and everything in between. Then all these different cars on the racetrack that do different things to the racetrack. I just thought that we owe a big tip of the cap to the NHRA Safety Safari, because I do think people sleep on the challenge that is making that racetrack raceable when there are 900 cars beating it to death. All these different configurations, different tires, different, clutch cars, automatic cars, door cars, dragsters. It's literally insane that they are able to keep a workable racing surface out there for the entirety of that event. And they had some serious challenges on race day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of the things, I don't know if you guys remember, we were having our team meeting prior to the start of the World Series of Pro Mod back in March, but I was, as part of like our event guide that I was trying to share with our team, you can't apologize for track conditions. Like they're part of the story. You know what I mean? And I felt like we really got to see that play out at the U.S. Nationals on race day. The track conditions were part of the story. You saw that left lane get tore up early on, some gear lube on the track. They spend for a bunch of time cleaning it up. We see a couple guys struggle, a couple guys make good runs there, but it created this air of uncertainty, right? That I think added to the event. I mean, I was really enjoying seeing all the lane swaps, seeing these guys changing lanes and even changing lanes when good runs were being made. There was an instance there where Erica Enders and Dallas Glenn ran each other. And despite Matt Hartford going down the left lane and making a very competitive run, Dallas Glenn and Erica Enders faced off, I think, in the second round of eliminations. So much going through my head. But anyways, they faced off in eliminations. Dallas Glenn makes a great run in the left-hand lane. Erica takes him out on a hole shot. despite that, Matt Hartford swapped from the right lane to the left lane. And there was a lot of talk about, like, why would you make that decision, especially if you just saw somebody go fast right down that lane? Why would you opt out of, or opt into that lane? And I just thought, being able to talk about these things and all these nuances with it just added a layer of complexity to the show that I thought was interesting and absolutely contributed to it, and probably wouldn't have had. I mean, I know nobody wants to get behind, nobody wants to clean up oil downs, but I do think ultimately it kind of contributed to the story of the 2023 run-in of the NHRA U.S. Nationals.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that too. I know we all want perfectly even lanes, and really anymore, they always, for the most part, they always are. We rarely see a quote unquote one lane racetrack. But things we saw it in Brainerd a little bit with the Blake Alexander deal, and then the subsequent issues that happened there with not running that session. We saw it again to open Pro Stock. And then those guys, I think Erica even mentioned it in one of her top end interviews, that lane choice is a factor and that they were going for that in eliminations. A lot of times it's just like, doesn't matter. We'll take either lane. We've ran well in both. But when things like that start happening, and with the changing track conditions, it becomes a factor. And to me, that's something, again, we talk about things of sports lost, and I don't know if that's necessarily a positive that we've lost, but that is something that you used to contend with more than I think you do now. So kind of an old school situation, which fits the U.S. Nationals.
I think so too, because that's part of the beauty of racing in the dog days of summer. And I mean, now we're headed into the fall, which is weird to say out loud, but it's still this time of year in most parts of the country. It's pretty hot, right? Pretty sultry. And I think that's when the cream rises to the top. That's when the men are separated from the boys, if you will. And I love to see these racers having to get into their bag of tricks, having to try some new things, having to step out of their comfort zone, because it creates all these storylines. And who knows? I don't know that the situation plays out the way that it did if it was overcast and mineshaft conditions. And I don't think we would have saw the incredible race that we got. Like, my favorite happening of the whole weekend was that tire smoking pass that Ron Capps made in the second round of eliminations against Hagan. Man, that thing has got the tires on fire at the 1,000-foot mark, and he's just legging it down through there, firewalled. I'm going, okay, this is what drag racing's all about. We want to see record runs, no doubt about it. When they happen, it's great. But seeing a guy fight like that to get a round win, those are the moments, man. We'll be talking about that. That's going to be a highlight. And I think we need to be more proud of those highlights, because that is a highlight-worthy run, but it won't get that kind of attention because it didn't produce a 340-mile-an-hour trap speed. You know what I'm saying, Mike?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. What do you think about, we were talking about the Dallas Glenn, Erica Enders race. What do you think about the in-car shots in Pro Stock and sort of what that adds to the show, showing what's going on in that car? Besides that one too, another example of that in-car shot was the final round. I don't know if you watched the final round with Matt Hartford and Fernando Jr., but they showed the majority of that race from that in-car cam looking back at Matt, and you could see out the window that yellow car fade back. It was going into tire shake or whatever happened, but when they left the line, it was neck and neck. And then you're thinking, all right, this might be a close race. Then you just see that car fade back through the driver's window, giving you that perspective of what that driver is seeing at that time. So
I loved it, man. It looked to me like they had some helmet mounted cameras happening because in the run that I was thinking of between Dallas and Erica, you actually got to see Dallas look over, and it was like a noticeable look over, and just it puts you in the car. I got goosebumps talking about it. Like, kudos to whoever was involved with cooking that shot up and making sure that happened, because it really adds a lot to it. I don't think we do nearly enough as a sport in car. I get that the cars are pretty, they're moving fast, sometimes they're shooting fire out of them or doing wheelies, and that stuff's awesome. But getting a look at the driver, like seeing, to your point, Mike, Matt Hartford kind of cock his head over, right, and try to get a good look at the tree. That's important stuff. Watching them row through the gears, seeing that Bo Butner's always wearing those skeleton finger gloves. Like, I just think there's some cool things that need to be highlighted, and we do not.
It also shows that it's harder than what it looks like. I think the in-car stuff, you realize, they're doing quite a bit of stuff in there. Compared.
Did you see the video that Alex Laughlin posted on his Instagram? That was like he mounted a GoPro on the roof hatch, so like it was kind of cool shot whenever he flapped the roof up after the burnout and was backing up, and then seeing it come back down, but it was looking directly over him in the cockpit, and he's sawing the wheel down through there. You get to see him turn on the second fuel pump. You get to see him grabbing a bunch of brake and stabbing the gas. I mean, I think sometimes people don't realize that those fuel cars have like so much static clutch pressure. When you roll in and light the bottom bulb, your foot's all the way off the clutch. Like you're holding it against idle, and then you're mashing the gas. And it's just, to watch all that unfold, we need more of that. Those need to be the highlights that get used. The other stuff is just hard to comprehend what's happening inside the car. And Pro Stock, it just scores 100 points, in my opinion. Whenever you put the camera in a Pro Stock car, 100 out of 100.
The other shot I like that I'm seeing more of is the aerial shot.
Oh yeah.
I just feel like that gives like the old school, like Hot Wheels view. I feel, watching, and you can see exactly what's happening, who left the line first, who's jumped out in front, is the other guy, making a charge on top end, what's happening. Not always, but there were several shots, especially I think there was one with caps there in the finals. You could see like that stripe down the middle that we were talking about on the car. It just gives you a different angle and perspective of these cars. And I always think
those drone shots give scale to what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And speed, in a sense of speed. So many of these camera angles just like neuter the sense of speed. And that's what we got to do. The in-car camera is great. The aerial camera is great. I've even seen some at Brainerd, they had a camera mounted way down on top end, like where the turnoff was. And you saw the cars kind of coming down through there with the chutes out, making that turn, things like that, again, the standard 3/4 angle or whatever just doesn't give you.
Did you see, I really liked the new on-air graphics.
Yeah,
I saw them first. I knew that was coming, and it was great to see them on NHRA.TV to start off, to see the more information and getting to see all
the driver. That's a big thing on NHRA TV, is seeing that photo of the driver at the end. I think that adds a lot.
A tremendous amount. And then great job with it on television as well. Like there was a moment in the final where they went to a split screen deal, and the primary shot was Ron Caps's car, but the small window, matter of fact, similar to the shot that we have going on here, was Don Prudhomme's face. And I'm like, we need more of that. That was you get to see him focused on the car, got the glasses on. Circling back around, Alan Reinhart said something on the PA that I guess it was on the PA. He goes, "There's not a cooler guy. Never have I met anyone cooler than the Snake." And I couldn't agree more. That guy there is an aura around him that you just know you're around someone special. Like being within 10 foot of the guy, there's something there when you're with it, you're in his orbit. And to see the way people just ooh and ah over him, the reverence that guys like Ron Capps have for him, it does remind. I get frustrated sometimes when I think about how laser focused I feel our sport is on time on yesteryear. You guys have heard me complain about that before. Like, we're always looking back. We'd spend too much time talking about what happened and not about what we need to do or what we can do better or what's going to happen in the future. But it's stuff like that. It's being around guys like that and seeing just how truly special and unique they were that kind of makes you understand why we spend so much time focused on these dudes. Because there's some real special, once in a lifetime guys and gals for that matter, that have been a part of the drag racing tradition for a long, long time. So yep. That whole situation was awesome.
Let's pay some bills real quick and then wrap up our NHRA stuff and talk about some of the other racing we had going on this week.
Hey, gang, I want to remind you that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is made possible by way of our friends at Stroud Safety. Stroud Safety is known for their top quality racing safety equipment, from drag chutes and seat belts to fire suits and blankets, all 100% made in America. Log on to StroudSafety.com today and be sure to tell them we sent you. Guys, the next topic of conversation, you want to dive into a little bit of Yellowbullet chat? I think we're going to have to, man. It was I got a special moment that I'll share with you that I think people need to know about. I actually sent it to Jim Halsey. I was in the Pro Mod pits. A couple things that I'd like to make mention of. First and foremost, the Fuel Tech NHRA Pro Mod Drag Racing Series presented by Type A Motors has in my opinion, in a lot of ways, kind of turned the corner. There was a lot of concern over the course of the last few years, kind of on the heels of the real Pro Mod Association turning over the Pro Mod series to the NHRA for them to administer. And then COVID happens and the world is burning. And it definitely took some of the momentum that particular series of drag racing had been enjoying up until that point. I felt like I saw the NHRA 22, 23 cars, I believe. Is that right, Mike? Entered into the NHRA U.S. Nationals and Pro Mod this weekend. 23?
I think so.
I
it
mean,
may have been down to the 21. I think a couple fell off.
All incredible cars, incredible turnout of racers. There wasn't a single slouch on the property. It was a really impressive thing to see. And while there's always room for improvement, and I'm sure they're exploring new ways, it felt like they've established some community there. And it was shown to me or demonstrated to me on Saturday evening when final qualifying's over, right? And you've got a couple, obviously there's 16 qualifying spots and 21 cars. So there's 5 guys on the outside looking in. And I get a text message from Debbie O'Rourke at ProLine and also kind of the head honcho there at Finish Line Consultants, which bridge the gap between the NHRA and this Pro Mod teams. Anyways, I go over there. She's got 2 tents set up. Scott Tidwell has his coach over there, a big semi-trailer. They got barbecue grills everywhere. They're cooking food. And the whole situation was heartwarming just to see all these guys that had spent the last 2 or 3 days competing fiercely against one another, breaking bread together. And even cooler was the guys that were on the outside looking in. They hadn't loaded their crap up and gone home or went and put their heads down and cried in their beer in their pit area. No, they were over there, part of the community as well, eating. And obviously, they're probably not as happy as some of the guys that made the show. No doubt about it. The stuff burns every time. It never gets easier. But nonetheless, just to see that level of buy-in, I think was really, I think it's significant. And the coolest part that I was going to mention is we're all sitting there, right? What's on the TV? This is a true story. And this, I'm not trying to, upon further evaluation, this could be misinterpreted. But Top Fuel is running. Right? Top Fuel and Funny Car are in the lanes. They're running. All these Pro Mod guys are in the pits, breaking bread, eating dinner. And they had the NHRA.TV broadcast on a big screen inside the hospitality tent. And the next thing you know, they go up there and they flip it over to the Yellowbullet Nationals. And I just thought that was a cool moment to see all these Pro Mod guys that are here at the freaking U.S. Nationals, right? Many of them wait their whole life to go to this race. Everybody who's anybody is there, but they're all watching the Yellowbullet Nationals. And I actually took a picture of everybody.
Too.
Locked in, dude.
They were like formed a row, like just standing there watching it, even though all this food, is being served. And I just think the moral there is that door car guys are going to door car no matter what, because they didn't care what was going on track. They were there to watch the Yellowbullet Nationals. And you also had Tidwell's other car running there in 275. So you had a lot of guys that had multiple interests in checking out what was going on there.
I thought it was just a cool moment. I actually took a picture or a video and sent it to Jim Halsey, who was racing his race up in Maryland. But I just wanted him to know that this is a group of guys, to your point, that just really, by and large, support one another in a lot of different ways. And it felt like a cool moment that was worth mentioning. Moving to the actual Yellowbullet Nationals, holy moly, a lot of stories that we will kind of dive into a little further. It was cool to see Keith Haney make the trip across the country to be a part of that deal. The semifinal round matchup, I'm trying to think of everybody. The Decker cars, Andy Jensen. What was the other one? What am I drawing blank on, Michael? I'm drawing blank on one guy. Was it Kurt?
I had this written down.
I'm trying to think. Who was it? Somebody look it up. Who was in the? It's in our Slack channel. I'm trying to think of who exactly it was.
JT, look it up. Come back to us.
That'd be fantastic. But anyways, Yellowbullet Nationals, over 400 cars on the property. Just a monumentally successful event. I tip my cap to everybody involved. Huge turnout in Ultra Street. Solid performances across the board. A lot of drama around this. We kind of saw some things popping off on social, everybody having their opinion about track prep. I love these conversations when I see them pop off. But my takeaway from it, to be honest, is no matter what you feel about the prep or how these races are run, as far as a show of strength for the sport of drag racing, those are just 2 events out of God knows how many other races are taking place at drag strips across the country on Labor Day weekend. this is a high tide moment for our sport. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody's concerns are. They certainly exist. But if you just look at the sport through the lens of those two events, the U.S. Nationals and the YellowBullet.com Nationals, same weekend, serving a handful of the same categories, at least pro modified, I guess.
And Yellow Bullet kind of started as an anti-U.S. Nationals. I remember the initial branding of that on the Yellow Bullet forum with Monty Miko was,
it was the anti-NHRA.
Yeah, we don't care about the U.S. Nationals. That's not for us. That's the, I don't know. What do you want to say?
It was like the outlaw. It felt like a protest.
They don't acknowledge our type of racing, all that kind of stuff.
And I think part of that has gone away.
Yeah, I do too. And now they like kind of coexist. I mean, there's no like cross promotion or anything going on, but you see guys like we talked about Tidwell that have cars in both series. There is more crossover there now and less of a, I guess, like, I mean, to me, when they first started that race, it was like, are you crazy? Why would you do a race to try to compete with the U.S. Nationals? But I think it's worked. I think it's worked because of how different it is. And they've latched onto that. And now it's pretty much known. Those are pretty much the two big races happening on Labor Day, just by standing the test of time, obviously with the U.S. Nationals, but now with the YellowBullet.com Nationals as well.
I thought when it first happened, it felt like this protest. It felt like this fight the man, this revolt or whatever. And I was a little bit concerned about it because I thought, man, here I am, always preaching unity and trying to work together, get all the fish swimming in the same direction. And then this happens. And I'm like, I think it could be a touch counterproductive. This isn't what we want to do. And it has really turned out. I mean, even the first one was a success. They've all been successful. And to see it what it is now, like you said, it's a completely standalone thing, and it's very complimentary. It caters to a totally different audience of people, a totally different fan base, in my opinion, totally different racer base. Not a ton of overlap, just a handful of pro mod guys that can go both ways there. But now, a really, really strong weekend for the sport of drag racing as far as I'm concerned. I don't know that all the stories we kind of talk about winners, but a couple of things that I want to save a few for later in the show, Mike. But let's rewind real quick. If we don't have an opportunity to talk about it later in the show, what was your reaction to Factory X at going back to the U.S. Nationals? Because I'm a happy camper. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I think it was a long time coming. I mean, they were those cars that we saw the press release. It was made a big splash, and it's taken a little while, I think, for guys to get a handle on that setup and that combination, get these cars built. New cars are you're on a waiting list now at this point. But a lot of guys that build their own stuff or worked with different chassis builders came out with these deals. A lot of the same names that you see anytime a class like this comes along, Stanfield, Holbrook, a lot of those names, these guys are willing to dive into these new door slammer, I guess you call it, door car classes. And we saw Stanfield get the win. So again, a big debut, I think, for this class. It's got a ways to go before I believe we see an 8 or 16 car field. But I'm glad to see it finally make an on-track debut in competition.
You and me both. I think I was a little bit. I thought we'd see the cars dip into the 6-second zone. I really did.
It was hot though.
It is hot, right? And we saw some mid to low 70s, 7s, 190 plus, 191, 192. I think I saw. But I hearing one of those cars, just the look of them. Stock dimensions, steel roof and quarters, looks like a Camaro, looks like a Challenger, looks like a Mustang. Very cool. 10.5Ws on the back, wheelie bars. The cars look so good. They've got a great stance. Chris Holbrook's car looks instant gratification on the quarter panel. Like, holy moly.
I'm not a Mustang guy usually, but it might be the best looking one.
Stanfield's car, the Rod Shop Chevy Camaro, I'm a big fan of. And I was glad that not that I'm taking sides, but I do feel that like that with all the hubbub that's been around the class, it was kind of cool to see that car win it. Yeah. But it was hearing them do their burnouts and then roll in, right, and stage the cars like a pro stocker, because people got to realize these things got Liberty 5 speeds in them. They're the clutch cars. This is really badass with 1,500 horse late model fuel injected supercharged engines that are available from the factory. This is, I do think I've argued here on the show that I wish this was something, hindsight's 2020, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but it feels, like you said, long time in the making. I would have loved to have seen this class many, many moons ago. But they've done a fantastic job with it. And I think it's got a lot of promise personally. I mean, the buzz on the internet, I saw a ton of comments about it on social media, always a good indicator of what people care about. It was a great opportunity to kind of connect modern performance cars to the fan base of an NHRA race. And even with only 4 of them, it got a lot of buzz. Alan Johnson jumping in and driving DH Davies' car. That was a cool moment as well. It was great to see him back at the racetrack.
It was good to see
I
him
haven't
back.
seen AJ. I haven't seen Alan Johnson. I honestly don't even remember the last time I've seen him. So
saw him at the
cool
hotel.
moment.
Well, before we wrap up, we're kind of jumping around, but let's wrap up one last NHRA thing that was dropped on us this week, the 2024 schedule. What did you think about that in some of the reading the tea leaves, reading between the lines here on some things, 2 TBAs on there. We heard a lot of different stuff. The rumor mill was swirling, but what's your take on the 2024 schedule?
I maybe should pull it up and just blow through it here real quick for those that maybe don't know. But I think my overall takeaway on it, Mike, I'm actually not going to read them all, but there are 2 TBDs on there. And looking at the dates and kind of hearing what we're hearing, I think there's going to be some big surprise. I think people are going to be shocked, mainly because we've spent most of 2023 grieving, mourning the loss of these 2 facilities. And by all accounts, I think they're going to be back, dude. I mean, you can't overlook the fact that we all cried for weeks and weeks and months about the NHRA leaving Phoenix and not returning to Phoenix in 2024. But lo and behold, Phoenix Wild Horse Motorsports Park is right there on the schedule. So I think that was well-received news. And it kind of just, to me, drives home the point that we get all up in arms as a community. We get all up in arms as an industry that there's this huge problem. And how many headlines and social posts did we talk about? Drag racing's down. We're in trouble. Another track going away. But when the schedule comes out, here they are. And to that point, rumor has it we're going to see Topeka and Denver on the schedule again in 2024. Anybody who knows how private equity or some of these real estate transactions happen, there's oftentimes some big overlaps. There's some big time gaps, right? There's opportunity to maybe squeeze one more in, maybe to have one more swing of the bat. Who knows what happens in the future? But by all accounts, I think we're going to see those two venues back on the schedule in 2024or. So I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
Do it again. The going out of business sale that never stops. But
man,
it's all, I mean, hey, we'll take it, and we're glad to hear that if that does end up being true. I was glad to see Chicago back on there again. I don't know what kind of agreement that was initially, but I had heard it was just like, all right, we're gonna go back there and just see what happens in 2023, earlier this year, and there was no given that there was going to be any kind of long run at the track again. So good to see it back on there, because I feel like that event was successful this year.
I think that the NHRA learned they can do a very successful event without track partners like in Chicago. It was no secret that track, the Route 66 Raceway outside of Chicago in Joliet, Illinois, it's owned by NASCAR. Their primary interest is the circle track, and that the deal is kind of operated with a skeleton crew. Last I knew, there was like a handful of people, maybe 2 full-timers at the drag strip there. NHRA had to bring in the entire team, the entire infrastructure that they normally are able to rely on a track partner for, like parking attendants, tower staff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They had to do it all, and they did it. They passed that test with flying colors. I mean, we saw a huge turnout of fans, a very successful drag race. I think that they learned that they can do that. I mean, I'm sure they already believed they could, but with the success of Chicago, not only are they not afraid to go back, they're not afraid to go to Phoenix and do the same thing, because it's my belief, the way that press release read following the announcing that the driving school there in Phoenix had taken ownership of the track, or however that whole situation worked out. I don't know all the details, obviously, but I can only imagine they're not going to have the same level of staff at that facility that they've maybe had in the past. But I don't think that scares NHRA. They're like, we can put on an event without a bunch of help from the track partners. So I think that that's going to be one of the things that we see. But it is funny, right? We've spent all year up in arms. I mean, I can't count how many conversations I've had about track closures, this, that, and the other. All these salacious headlines.
It's because it all happened. It seemed to happen all at once.
It did.
It was like every day or every week we were hearing about a track. This is the last national event of this track, or track closing, or the deal like ATCO just out of nowhere closing. So yeah, we'll take some of these victories in the other direction. Speaking of, I don't know if you saw this. Did you see that ZMAX Dragway shared photos that place has been turned into like this massive motocross deal for the weekend or whenever that event's coming up? Like they literally poured dirt all over the return road behind the water box onto the track in the shutdown. And it's like, I hope, because I mean, we're going to be there in like 2 weeks. So I'm hoping it's like it's like North Carolina red clay is what it looks like to me. And I'm like, y'all gonna need to start
looks like a country
that.
Music song.
Y'all gonna need to start washing that like now, because that stuff does not come off easily. It's gonna be interesting to see how that they should really do like some kind of documentary or time lapse or something of not only setting that up but tearing it down before the race rolls in. NHRA rolls in 2 weeks.
I hope they do, man, because I personally I just think it's a cool thing to see. Overall, I think it's actually 3 weeks. I think it's like
like 2.5.
It's Alicia's birthday weekend to the 21st. So, but looking at the whole deal, I'm going, I think that's the model. I know that there are people who are like, oh, I hate to see that done to a drag strip, but we've talked about this before. If you look around the tracks that are killing it, the tracks that are really having successful, they're finding creative uses for that property.
I saw so many people sharing that post like, this is like terrible. What the heck is going on? But yeah, you're right.
Hey, man, you got to get it however you can get it. I mean, and
that place doesn't get a lot of use. I think the pits at ZMAX get more use than the track. Because I mean, they run like driving schools and
police training, I'm sure.
I mean, yeah. So
that's what it takes, man. I mean, from sea to shining sea, even around the world, the motorsports venues, the motorsport specific venues that have considerable success and seem to escape the rumors of closure and escape all that. They seem to be true multi-purpose facilities. I mean, obviously drag racing is like at the forefront of their offering, but they're not afraid to have tractor pull. They're not afraid to have a monster truck deal. They're not afraid to do something crazy like this Supercross event that ZMAX is going to host. Matter of fact, think about the Nitro Olympics that we didn't get to talk very much about in Hockenheim, Germany last weekend. That happens on like, I don't know what part of the track, but that happens at the ring, right? I mean, in Hockenheim, Germany, like that is an asphalt. That's like a straightaway on the road course that they use for a drag race. I mean, I was watching that with my mind blown, basically my jaw on the floor, but these are high level drag cars racing on an all asphalt drag strip. Like, I mean, you watch that and you go, man, why don't the fuel cars run as good as they do over here? Because they're racing on the road in front of your house, bro. Like, it's surely not Bradenton in February, and it's surely not, the U.S. Nationals or Lucas Oil Raceway on Labor Day weekend. That's where the rest
of that show comes in, all the lights and everything else. Not diminishing the racing, but people are there to see a lot more than drag racing for that deal. Looked like a hell of a deal.
Oh, it was a hell of a deal.
Let's pay some bills real quick again, and then let's talk run of the week.
Yeah, we got some new stuff for you guys. All right, guys, let me take a minute to remind you all that the Wes Buck Show is brought to you by our friends at Redline Synthetic Oils. Redline has a reputation with racers and hardcore enthusiasts for creating products that perform and protect better than any on the market, and they've been doing it since 1979. Whether it's your race car, your tow rig, your motorcycle, or your lawnmower, when you think about lubricants, you need to think about Redline. For more information, log on to redlineoil.com. Had a whale of a weekend this past weekend at the NHRA U.S. Nationals. Steve Torrance, Redline driver, scores #1 qualifier in Top Fuel, kind of reminding everybody of his status that keeps him at the top of Top Fuel competition, as well as Sean Bellemere taking home the Top Alcohol Funny Car win with Redline on the quarter panel. Shout out to all those guys, and I'm sure I'm missing a host of them, but those were some that were on the top of mind. Mike, you're right. We've got a brand new segment for you guys here on the Wes Buck Show that we're pretty excited about. We're just going to this is a little bit of a slow roll, but it's something that's been weighing on our mind for several weeks now, that I think the way to explain this is what we feel is one of our primary roles here at Drag Illustrated is to celebrate the men and women that make this sport what it is, and celebrate specific excellent moments, right? All these racers from all different walks of life have monumental weekends at the drag strip. And you know as well as I do that oftentimes those things come and go, or the news cycle moves so fast in 2023 that, I mean, you may be a hero on Friday night following the U.S. Nationals and completely forgotten the next week as the series rolls on or the next event comes up, because we're all so fixated on the latest and greatest happenings. But something that we really take seriously here at DI is making sure people know, providing some validation, right? Guys, there's a lot of huge moments that happen at the drag strip that aren't big wins, that don't happen maybe in the final round. So we've decided to cook up a couple of ideas, and one of them is talking about all the baddest ass runs of this past weekend. There's just single happenings on the track, not always records, not always booming trap speeds, but just individual efforts on the drag strip that are meaningful. And we want to make sure these guys and gals know that someone noticed, specifically us here on the Wes Buck Show. Mike, let's dive into some of these first ones. We had the coolest part about this, in my particular opinion, is having the opportunity, like with the 30 under 30, like with the Women of Power, like with the various things we do here at the magazine, being able to talk about racers, not just from a single pocket, right, but paint a wide swath and make all these guys guilty by association. Like talk about someone like Ron Capps in the same breath as Doug Reister. And I gave a couple of them away there, Mike, but let's dive into some of the biggest runs of this past weekend on the drag strip.
Yeah. Do you want to just run through a list here that we compiled, and then maybe pick our favorites? You pick your standout, I'll pick mine, and we'll justify it.
Yeah, sounds like a plan, man. I mean, here's some of the highlights from the weekend as far as I'm concerned. Doug Reister, longtime door slammer legend. Perhaps one of the, I was trying to think about where he kind of ranks in the best outlaw door slammer drivers of all time. He's got to be in the conversation. Built his own race car, did it in the basement of my house. He's been on the cover of the magazine 2 times. He's just an all-round fantastic guy. Doug Reister clicks off a 3:58 at Extreme Raceway Park in Ferris, Texas, during their monthly Outlaw Pro Mod shootout. Goes on to win the race. Makes the quickest run in the history of nitrous Pro Mod racing. There have been a couple passes quicker on radial tires, but no one's ever been close. And the interesting storyline to this, and I do think it's worth mentioning, is he goes 3:58. The car has got it's not a car that has the latest, greatest engine combination. It's not a brand new chassis from a big name builder.
Do we know what combination is in it?
I believe it's an 800 something cubic inch rear Morrison engine. I know it's a rear Morrison engine.
Yeah, definitely.
I know it's got carburetors on it. I know it's got bull horns on it.
Actually, I saw some discussion. It's got EFI.
Has he switched to EFI now?
Yeah, recently, like a year ago.
Okay.
It's got EFI.
So switch to EFI, but it still harkens back to like the glory days of ADRL Pro Nitrous when there were no rules essentially, and these guys were building these crazy lightweight cars.
Oh, yeah. He led the charge in that. I mean, this is like a kit car, right? For a kit from
it's a Tim McCamus chassis kit
built
car.
It in his garage all those years ago. How many cars have come and gone since then that were built in that era? And he had that car built, I think, I would say like the 2007, 2008, 2009, that was the heyday of everybody was getting a new lightweight car. I think that car was built prior to that, like 05, 06, maybe.
I would say right around there. Yeah.
Because he was running that from the start of the ADRL.
Seeing him stick with the combination, and I mean, now granted, he's made some changes. I mean, when I think I first met, that thing definitely had the Liberty 3-speed in it, or 4-speed way back when, but now it's got the latest, or it had a Lenco 3 or 4-speed in it. Nowadays, it's got a Liberty something in it. I don't know. I heard that thing change gears like 15 times. It sounded like on its run down through there, but it was just a huge moment that I think got a lot of people's attention. And considering what we've been talking about for the last hour, everything that's happening in Indy, everything that was happening at Cecil County, it's just cool to think that there was this collection of badass door slammers right here outside of Dallas, Texas, setting world records, man. Let me blow through this list. I got to move a little faster, I suppose. Behind Doug Reister's 3:58 at XRP, I also thought it was fantastic to see Doug Coletta click off that 336 mile per hour run. It it felt like a long time coming. I do feel like that Coletta Motorsports team is kind of getting over the hump, perhaps at exactly the right time. I know that the weekend didn't end for them the way they wanted to, but it seems like it had been a shame not to identify those numbers popping up on the scoreboard for Doug Coletta. How about Ricky Smith going number 1 in a nitrous car at the U.S. Nationals, goes 577 to take the number 1 qualifying
at
spot.
253, I believe. I didn't get any confirmation or a text from Brett Kepner, but was that not the fastest nitrous quarter-mile run in history?
Pull up the
We got to
top.
pull it up.
JT, can you pull up the
I
top
forgot to
8
look
from
at
the
this
last
before we
episode
started.
or the last issue of the magazine? Because if it's not, it's very near the top, and it definitely, in my opinion, like again, not a fact, but I'm almost certain that it's the fastest nitrous pass ever recorded in NHRA Pro Modified. Maybe there have been at an outlaw race. I don't know how fast Dean Marinas went when he ran 550, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But
I wish I don't have it in front of my notes, but yeah, it was that to me was as impressive, obviously, as the ET. And really, these two, Doug Reister and Ricky, these are my picks. I'm just gonna go ahead. You don't even have to talk about the rest of them because
you're going full nitrous guy.
My nitrous guys were showing out this weekend.
Oh, bro!
8 mile outlaw, quarter mile NHRA.
I think we're gonna have to open up a discussion here.
Nitrous is not dead.
I'm telling you right now. Seeing what I saw in some of the cars that did not qualify at the NHRA U.S. Nationals, I'm ringing Ricky Smith's phone this week. I really am. I mean, it's well documented that he's looking to retire. That's clearly a hot rod car. He had the car to beat with, obviously qualifies number 1. And if he wouldn't have lost on a hole shot, I think that we'd have seen that car in the final. Who knows? The competition's so good over there that it's kind of a pick 'em deal, to be honest. But he definitely had a shot at it. And I can't imagine there aren't some people going, you know what? They changed the rules on this other stuff an awful lot. I wonder, and you have to wonder if somebody else comes in, are they going to kind of be, they tend to go after Ricky, they being the NHRA technical department. I'm surprised we haven't heard about a rule change already. Who knows what'll happen, but I've got a couple other runs to mention. Jason Collins going 363 in Pro 275 competition at Cecil County behind the wheel of Scott Tidwell's 69 Camaro, Screwcharge 69 Camaro. To think about a car going bottom 360s on a 275 drag radial, no matter all that we've seen, and it's no secret that I'm kind of a big floppy tire guy. I'm a big tire guy. It's no secret. But you cannot discount that performance, how impressive that run was, and how effortless they look. When those cars go fast, and we've talked about this a lot, it just looks almost lazy. Like it just zips down through there with no wiggle whatsoever. Really cool, and also super cool to see Jason Collins' name on a world record run like that. Just an all-around great guy down at Alabama International Raceway. Ron Capps, here's one that I kind of prefaced in the intro. Not a monumental run, no sort of record number, no sort of incredible performance, but Ron Capps' driving job in the second round of eliminations at the U.S. Nationals. This thing gets less than 100 foot out, struggles, maybe a little bit further down than that. He's pedaling it and then ultimately just firewalls that son of a gun, legs it down through there. It's fighting in towards the center line. It literally was annihilating the tires going through the finish line, 300 mile an hour or whatever. And it's just, what a job. What we've seen Ron Capps show up as a driver so many times. I think he's got to be in the conversation as like one of the best there's ever been driving one of those cars. Remember just last year when he like risked the championship legging that thing down through there in Pomona? Yep. I mean, we see this guy's got, I mean, I think he may have a wheelbarrow handy, and you know what he carries in. I mean, it's impressive as far as I'm concerned. And I thought it was important that we mention a run that wasn't going to be at the top of the top 8.
Right. Not a record setter, but still
not a record setter. Hell of a run. And lastly, another one, not necessarily a record setter. I mean, I think we would have to kind of dig into we kind of have to dive in, like the quickest pass ever made by a 63 split window Corvette on nitromethane in Texas. I don't know what the stats are around nitro pro mods, but Kevin Kinsley going bottom 360, 363, I think, or 361, maybe the best run of the weekend for that car. I don't know where this concept came from. I don't know if this is something, I'm sure it was inspired by Scott Palmer and Nitro and the Studebaker, but they've got something figured out, and I want you to know they've got my full attention. Like,
we need to get more details on that combo and what's
I
going on
texted
with
him
that.
yesterday. I'm going to get on the phone with Kevin this week because I need to know more about what's going on there, because they're making a pretty significant argument. Have you seen photos of that car? I mean, I'll have Blake throw some on the screen here. Seeing a 63 split window Corvette with an injector hat over the roof, right? And like 8 or 10 foot freaking header flames hanging out of it and making good runs, like making competitive runs. That is badass, man. Nitro Pro Mod, could this be a thing? We wondered if it could be a thing from an exhibition kind of standpoint, and I think it could have been, right? Clearly, J.R. Sandlin and Scott Palmer were making that case, but now we're seeing one competing in competition with considerable success. I think we need to get Kevin on the show next week to talk more about this.
He's a great guy.
I'm going to get
guy,
that piece
interesting
together.
guy with the nitro boat stuff too. So definitely, and what's going on at XRP? I mean, you got Doug Reister running his number. You got Kevin Kinsley. They're kind of still in the show. We were talking about the U.S. Nationals.
Bubba Stanton goes down there and
Yellowbullet.
drops the bomb on him. I mean, there's that track. Well, for one, it's a classic case of a racer being at the helm, somebody that's genuinely in love with this stuff. Clyde Scott, God only knows how much money he spent on it. I don't know that I've ever seen that much concrete. I mean, everything in Ferris, Texas, at Extreme Raceway Parks made of concrete. It's for people that are like pay close attention to that type of stuff. Everything's so nicely done. The place is spectacular. There have been a handful of 8th mile tracks in my life that kind of I felt were hidden gems, or people maybe didn't realize how nice they are and how great they are to the racers. XRP is in that category. Extreme Raceway Park in Ferris, Texas. Galen Scott is the track manager there, a name synonymous with outlaw door slammer drag racing, the Texas Grim Reaper team. He's been racing for as long as I've been alive and then some. And like I said, the track's owned by Galen Scott, and it's just prepped it's on kill all the time. There's no in between. You never have to wonder how the track's going to be at XRP. It's going to be on kill. And when he gives them that kind of racing surface, and there are I don't think there are any.
With how
I don't
hot
know.
it's been in Texas, though, too. Like, I didn't.
Well, I don't know
weather.
What time those runs took.
I'm sure it
could
was
have been
late,
2 or 4 in the morning for.
But doesn't it? It's like 90 is the low in Texas anymore. So
like 190 is the low in Texas right
so
now. I mean, it's been the nicest I've seen it here lately.
Okay, well maybe they got a little break there and got these runs in, but to be doing that in I guess it was August or September 1st ish in Texas with the weather that's been going on down there says a lot about the facility.
It really does, man. And I just think that if you think about those runs, and I want to throw this out there to everybody in the sport of drag racing, and everybody that joins us on this show each and every week, if you've got somebody that you think deserves to be in this conversation, hit us up, Wes@dragillustrated.com, send us a DM, slide into those DMs, slide into our inbox, because we want to know, because it's important that these guys get to hear their name. Like for me, it's a personal passion that I have to create opportunities where I get to talk about Doug Reister, Kevin Kinsley, Jason Collins, Doug Coletta, and Ron Capps in the same breath. I think this is one of the only places that those conversations are had where everybody's lumped in together and treated as equals. And it's something very near and dear to my heart. And I want to provide that little bit of validation, that attaboy, that pat on the back. And I can only imagine where this goes in the future. I'm kind of envisioning like prize packs and stuff. If you're selected for run of the week, or you are the run of the week, man, that's going to be a big, you know how we do it around here. I want to blow it out.
Racers Club shirt.
Yeah, man. I'll give them whatever they want. I mean, these guys deserve to get recognized.
I'm locking us into things that we haven't even discussed.
Yeah, we better send that up the flagpole. We're going to get in trouble. But no, so who's your vote? I mean, let's you got to pick somebody. We got to pick a winner. Okay, Doug Reister and Ricky Smith's your vote.
Nitrous is my vote.
Here's an interesting thing that I think is the only drawback. I do think we also at some point in the future are going to have to recognize how significant it is that Jim Halsey has been 359 with a full weight promo. Because I wonder what this week, Mike, we need
everybody
to find out
was saying we want to
disparity.
see a Halsey versus Reister match race.
But I don't.
That's
but
coming
the
at it
problem
from
is
two completely different angles there.
Two completely different angles,
which I think would be interesting as hell. I would
What
love
do you
to
think
see a
Reese's
breakdown
car weighs?
comparing those two cars.
2,200 pounds
I don't know,
ish.
man.
I'd say
We
it's
used to-
around there.
It was
20
always the benchmark.
It
I mean,
was
he had
the
some
benchmark.
crazy stuff like drill batteries in it back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just the craziest stuff ever. And every time we would go up to the lanes, and we were all still running like our legal stuff at that time.
Right.
He rolls
NHRA
up there with
legal
that
Pro
thing,
Mod cars.
and we're like, damn. And then one by one, everybody tried to kind of do that same thing. Either getting a big name chassis builder to build a light car or going with a new chassis builder. I mean, I don't know how many guys built their own like Doug, but he was still the benchmark for what to me that mid 2000s no rules outlaw pro mod stood for as it relates to nitrous. I think there were other ways guys were going with other combinations and are still out there like the Frankie Taylors and Bub Stantons. But Doug's really the only one kind of still on that path. Like I would love, like maybe we need to make, I don't even want to go there, but make a rule carve out for Doug.
I don't. It's impressive, man. I'm genuinely impressed with what he's doing. Let's give it up right here. Drag Illustrated. It's already happened. That ship has sailed.
Edit that out.
30 seconds. That ship has sailed. We're in trouble. But the Drag Illustrated Run of the Week, Mike called it. Doug Reister's 358 at Extreme Raceway Park. Congrats, Doug. We need to come up with some prizes, maybe a plaque or something. Let's get a plaque made. You can get plaque made. It's pretty reasonable, and you can make them badass. We'll come up with something. But anyways, guys, let's pay some bills, and we will move on down the road with our next new fun segment that we'd like to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, the Wes Buck Show is brought to you by way of FlowRacing.com. If you're a drag racer or a drag racing fan, you got to get on board with Flow Racing. The world leader in sports live streaming, Flow Racing provides unlimited access to drag racing's biggest events like Donald Blong's Lights Out, No Mercy, Sweet 16, every stop on the PDRA and NMCA tours, Funny Car Chaos, World Cup Finals, Streetcar Super Nationals, the World Series, Pro Mod, the Skag Power Equipment, Pro Superstar Shootout, and much, much more. Personally, Flow Racing is a fixture in my life. I'm able to follow along with multiple racing events from the comfort of my own home or while I'm on the road. The platform provided by Flow Racing is absolutely changing the sport for the better, and there is no limit to the good they can do. So log on to flowracing.com today. Join the movement. They did just roll out some monthly subscription offers that fans have been pandering for months, so be sure to check that out. Teg Turkski. Turbski. Did he ever acknowledge if that was a real last name in the comments?
I don't know, man.
I hope it is his real last name. Twin Turbski. All right, Mike, let's talk about this next new segment. And it goes right back to recognition and exposure. I mean, the point of these segments is to give racers the recognition that they deserve, especially those who might not often get spotlighted, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys that have a lot of success, and it happens well away from the NHRA national event stage or some of these huge independent races and outlaw happenings. And we wanted to find a way to create something that spanned all walks of the drag racing life. Talked about that momentarily. But we also wanted to contribute to this community togetherness. I know we sound like some Fruit Loops sometimes, but man, it is good for this sport to recognize that we're all drag racers, whether you're a big money bracket racer, whether you are a weekend warrior, a grassroots guy, a nostalgia guy, maybe you're part of Quain Stott's Southeast Gassers Association, maybe you run Streetcar Takeover and you've got a twin turbo Dodge Viper or an Audi R8. Whatever the case may be, you're my kind of people because you're a drag racer. Anybody who's rolled through the water box, pulled in, turned on those two lights, you're my kind of guy. And we wanted to create a couple new segments here on the Wes Buck Show to make sure that we had the opportunity to celebrate more people. We've only got so many covers of the magazine, right, Mike? We've only got so many slots in the 30 under 30. We've only got so many pages in the magazine, but we wanted to find new exciting ways to just give back and make sure that these men and women that are spending their time and energy and money beating up the 8th miles and quarter miles and 1,000 feet around the world know that somebody's watching.
Yeah, and hit us up on the run of the week. Same thing, racer of the week. Let us know. This week we've got a pretty top heavy list, but a little bit moving forward. This is going to be spread across all levels of drag racing, like you just said. So let's run through these. Some overlap with the run of the week, but also some ones that are not so defined by the performance and more by the racer themselves.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, when I look at this past weekend, the names that stuck out to me were like pretty obvious. I felt like you look at the top of the NHRA leaderboard there, Ron Capps, Antron Brown, Matt Hartford. I think an argument can be made for each of them. I think an argument could be made for Matt Smith, to be honest. Really, really incredible performance from that team this weekend. I think an argument obviously could be made for Doug Reesterer. I was also thinking Bo and Randy Lynn Butner winning in Super Gas and Super Stock. The Decker family, father-son final in Pro Mod at the Yellowbullet Nationals. I just think that those things are really, really cool.
We got to get JT back in here.
JT wants to come back and talk Racer of the Week. Let's do it.
Well, JT said, hey, the cover rub works again, man. Tell us about it.
It does. It worked, man. You put somebody on the cover and they go out and do something great.
You talk about Bo and Randy Lynn.
Yeah. It's the opposite of the Madden curse. I told him that. I told Randy that. Yeah, I said, "Oh, you guys are on the cover. Good.
You're gonna win now. Yeah, you better not change your flights. You're gonna be here until Monday night at the earliest."
Yep.
And that's again another opportunity to talk about sportsman racers, class racers, in the same breath as these big superstars. To be honest, man, I think I've got to just give it to Ron Capps. Winning the race, going back to back. I mean, think about it. Antron Brown and Ron Capps have now won 2 races in a row. That at this point in time, that doesn't happen in nitro racing right now. Top Fuel and Funny Car are as competitive as they've ever been by a considerable margin. So to go back to back, do it at the U.S. Nationals with the pressure, because you got to think about all this pressure of the Don Prudhomme tribute, having Snake there all weekend, all the fanfare, all the special happenings. You got Prudhomme in your pit warming up your car. You've got an increased fan presence because of this tribute car. Everybody's talking about it. People are emotional. You're in your feels. I mean, really one of not his first big break, but Ron Capps drove for the Snake for a long time. So there's all these connections to the happening, and to go out there, nail the tribute car, fight your way to the final round, come out on top. It's your second straight win in a row. Think about what happened last year. He went, think about it. Capps won the championship last year by 3 points. And it started in Indy, and it's like that. It's a special happening, and it'd be a crime not to give the Drag Illustrated Racer of the Week award to Ron Capps this week. I mean, Antron Brown qualifying 15th and winning the freaking race, fighting all sorts of gremlins.
That's actually my pick.
That's your pick?
Antron. Yeah, just seeing him again, because we were talking about, is Antron even going to make the field? Gets in there and just shows what a badass he is in his belief in his crew and his team. He said this in his top end interview: never quit, never give up. You got to believe in yourself. And he definitely did that to take it all the way to the win. Him and Ron sharing the winner's circle for the second year special at Indy. And also you got to mention the Decker family, father and son. How much of drag racing is about father and son time? And how many father-son combinations do we see out there? And to see those two go to the finals in Yellowbullet in Pro Mod is just a cool deal. And that is like, are they like the Pro Mod family right now with the number of cars they've got in there?
Oh, good question. Are they the definitive Pro Mod family? They may well be, big dog. I think so. The Tuttaros are definitely in that conversation. A huge shout out to Ty Tuttaro. Yep. We started this after Ty secured the the NMCA Extreme Pro Mod World Championship a couple weeks ago in Norwalk, if I remember correctly, right? Yeah. Yep. I don't know, man. We can't go we can't give a award out on week 1.
No,
we got to give it to Ron Capps.
We're giving it to Ron. I'm giving my mentions.
I mean, listen, I can make an argument for all of those. And let's talk about Matt Hartford a little bit. They made a hell of a jaw dropper, right, on Friday night. There wasn't a person there that was Matt's always right there. There's no doubt. And I do think he's a fantastic driver. But I don't know that anybody expected him to go out and lower the boom on the field the way he did Friday night. And everybody crept up on him, but the way to go wire to wire at the U.S. Nationals is a huge feat. I mean,
through those conditions, that's what I was talking about.
Varying conditions, all the nuances on race day, track conditions being completely different than you'd seen. One track, the left lane becoming questionable early on. I mean, I think that was really great team effort. Here's the other thing. Were you watching the final? Mike, did you watch the final?
Yes.
Issues in the burnout box.
Oh,
right?
yeah, muff the burnout. I forgot about that.
Yeah, anytime
totally...
that type of thing happens, I think a driver, a racer really shows their merit by not just going to hell in a handbasket.
I was thinking that same thing too.
A lot of other drivers in that moment don't get a burnout done or barely get a burnout done, back up too fast, run over a crew guy accidentally, wheelie bars aren't set right. He goes in there, cuts a 488 light or whatever. Like that is typically a moment where that's the thing that people fail to sometimes realize. You don't really learn much about a driver when everything goes to plan. When the car goes right down Broadway, barely makes a move, nothing happens, no drama on the starting line. Those aren't the moments that a driver really demonstrates their worth and how good they
everybody's
are.
in panic mode.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Mike Tyson always says, everybody's got a plan.
Handle it, some people can't.
Until you
go into panic mode, you're because it's not just you, it's everybody. Your whole crew's in panic mode too at that point.
It's so true, man. And I watched real closely when that happened. And Alan Reinhart was saying on the PA, obviously this is not ideal, but it's not a death sentence for this run. And he backed up and he kind of sat there in the water. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's going to start. Me too. He's just going to start the burnout right here. Like, you get so screwed up, but he rolled forward up to his Eddie Garnaccia, got where he needed to be. And Eddie was very cool. Also, wasn't like hurry up, flailing his arms or whatever. He stopped him right there, and then they just did.
I did notice Jerry Haas right beside the car.
Yeah,
the legendary chassis builder Jerry Haas. Jerry was standing right beside the car, and I saw the old hand go up, like stop, because he did roll well up out of the water. I remember, if my dad had an issue getting the tires spinning the burnout, what he would do is he'd back up in the center of the water. Right, rev that thing up, and she'd go left, right. You know what I mean? And it was a total disaster. And it typically worked out. But my point was, he rolled well up out of the water, and I was getting a little worried. I was kind of doing the same Jerry Haas thing, like whoa, stop, because the track's hot. Water is evaporating really quickly. I would want to make sure them things are going to spin when I rev this thing up. But he did a great burnout, backed up to your point. Eddie G right there, kind of keeping everything calm. His wife right out the door, which I'm sure helps to some extent, to see a friendly face. But he rolled up there and did a fantastic job and went on to win the U.S. Nationals. And like I said, when we were discussing this yesterday amongst the team, I'm going, it's a crime not to mention Matt, because that is a career-defining happening. And to do it through the adversity that every racer faces at the U.S. Nationals. Brian Loans put that on social media, that this race is a unique deal. It's a war of attrition in many ways. It's an endurance battle. It's like our Baja 1000. I mean, you've got to make it to the end. You got to stay alive, keep your stuff running till the bitter end.
Survive every night at the bar with JT.
True.
It is a marathon.
It's unbelievable, to be honest. But there you have it, guys. Let's say it right here and now. We're going to drag Illustrated Racer of the Week.
I think he did a speech as well to his crew about everybody just believing with him, sticking with him, and pretty cool.
I thought it was cool that he said in the winner circle, he's like, well, I did find out that I can't do a burnout, but it's those moments, being able to come back from that and not let that. I remember telling you one of the most telling things I ever saw happen with Lizzie Musey was at a PDRA race at Rockingham Dragway. She was running Pro Nitrous, and this is a little bit earlier on in the EFI life cycle, right? And she started the car in the water box and it kind of died, and she was struggling to get it to idle. So here comes Father Pat, and he comes over there, swings the door open, a situation that I've experienced personally. What's going? He's in there, fire this thing up, and he's got his hand on the throttle. You know what I mean? Leaned in the car. It was a whole thing. And I thought, if she's able to do a burnout, stage this car, and have anything positive happen, she's a race car driver. Because most people, you got your dad screaming at you, all these people are standing around watching, you're hot, It's loud. It's claustrophobic. You're strapped in place. And to be able to keep your composure in that moment, holy moly, man. And anyways, long way to say Matt Hartford also deserves a whole lot of congrats on one hell of a weekend. And there was a lot of great runs, man. I felt like we saw some really strong performances from Aaron Stanfield. TJ Coughlin looked good. Oh my goodness. How we should probably throw Fernando Quadra Jr. into the conversation. Jumps behind the wheel of a brand new car or new to him car, makes the change from a Mustang to a Camaro. Cars put together inside of a week, tested and 2 Indy, where he ends up taking it to the finals, qualifies well in the field, I think 6 or way up there. What a turnaround for that team, and damn near made history as the first Mexican native to win an NHRA national event. So in pro stock, look good doing it, man. Car looked good. I just think that there's we could spend all day talking about people that had a hell of a weekend, but let's get that and give it up. Oh, Kirksville, Missouri. A guy I know. You know. But what a
shout out Eddie.
Yeah, shout out Eddie Buck, my dad saving the day, selling a race car to Richard Freeman at the last minute. But a really strong weekend. I mean, kind of closing remarks here, guys.
Let's pay bills one more time and then roll into and wrap up here.
All right, you ready? Let's do this thing. Hey, folks, I want to give a quick shout out to my friends at Aeromotive Fuel Systems, the brand that's all about passion and performance, just like all of us here at Drag Illustrated. 3 generations deep. They're not making fuel systems. They're making history at the drag strip. They redefine performance by blending speed, reliability, and durability, setting them miles ahead of the competition. Aeromotive asks the hard questions, like why can't a fuel pump be for both street smart and race-ready applications? Their answer: aerospace technology and decades of track experience to create fuel systems that do just that. If you're looking for a fuel system that's as passionate about drag racing as you are, check out Aeromotive at aeromotive.com. Trust me, they're the real deal. Guys, we got what do we got coming up? We got a week off for the NHRA tour before the beginning of the NHRA countdown to the championship at Maple Grove Raceway, the House of Chaos, as it were. We've got the PDRA bracing for their return to Darlington Dragway. That's always a hot one out there, not only temperature-wise, but a great drag race.
Hopefully
great to see pro mods at Darlington, right? But what else we got going on? I do want to say congrats to Ty Tutterow. Huge weekend. Congrats. I got to see him a little bit. Was fantastic. What a great young man. You know, whenever it happens like that, Todd, Ty, that whole family, that whole team, near and dear our hearts at Drag Illustrated. I'm happy for them. Looking forward to seeing them.
That was awesome to see. Yeah, we're hitting record set season now. We got St. Louis, we got Charlotte, Reading, Ennis, Vegas. We're heading down the stretch here. As far as PDRA, we got like I call the North South Carolina stretch. We've got the Darlington, we've got Galat. So a lot of good races happening.
It is record setting season, man.
Big Dog tomorrow night, Big Dog tomorrow night at Piedmont.
Is it too hot for you to go?
I don't know. I have to check the temperature to see if it's below 70.
Doesn't matter who's coming or anything. It's like, what's the temperature like?
If it's below 78, I'll consider it.
We got to get you one of those fans that go around your neck.
I have some. I have some of those. My kids wear
Alicia bought me one too. Alicia bought me one, and I said, okay, just real quick, I'm supposed to wear that? Like, you think I'm gonna wear
they
that?
actually make some that almost look like one of those dorky Bluetooth things, you know. They're not as bad as the big fan. Yeah.
I'm just out on that, and nobody's hotter than I am at any given moment. No one's hotter or more likely sweating than me, but I'm still not wearing a fan around my neck. I just can't. Maybe like in the comfort of my own home or something.
I've got like an ugly one that has big fans.
You don't need a fan in the comfort of your own home, Wes. Your ceiling fan's about to take off into orbit.
I swear this truly happens every time Mike stays at my house. Every room he goes in, he turns the fans down. It's like I'm literally not even in the room and I hear click, click. I'm like, son of a bitch. He's in there turning the fans down.
He's looking out for, he's like, I'm going to save him some electricity.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Oh, lady.
I think you were the one who told Alicia that we had him spinning the wrong way, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
I think you're like, hey, man, wrong season. You need to get those pushing the air down, not up.
You're like, well, we just leave it on turbo all year.
I leave it on. It's got 3 speeds and it's on 6 all the time. As fast. I mean, the one in my daughter's room. There are times that it does look like it's going to take flight. Like I'm like looking at it. It's
they get a little unbalanced. Yeah,
ooh, sketchy. I turn it off at night because I'm afraid it's going to like fall down on her or something. It's like, okay, I don't want that thing.
Start smoking the other night.
Oh,
really?
Geez.
Yeah. You better call the people who wired your house.
Like, no, it was the actual fan itself. So
you have yours on turbo?
Yeah, in the bedroom. I gotta put.
You have to in the bedroom, right? Things get pretty hot in there.
Yeah, you gotta have the fan.
Buy a ceiling fan put together. Like putting a ceiling fan up isn't hard, but putting it together sucks. It really does.
I like all the different. Like you had changing the lights. They're all so different. Or changing the bulbs, that's what a pain in the butt. Where are we headed next, guys? I want to run through that. Like you said, big weekends coming up for the sport of drag racing. I think my next outing, it sounds like Mike may go to Piedmont for Big Dog. We got Nate headed to Darlington for the PDRA race. I believe a bunch of the Drag Illustrated crew is going to be in Charlotte for the NHRA.
I might go to Darlington also.
You should, man. That's a good one.
One. We'll be in Charlotte, several of us.
The Stampede of Speed. It's almost that time. It's almost October. That's one of the most exciting points, in my opinion, of the year when I get to spend about 7 freaking days out at the Motorplex. But I'm genuinely excited.
I've got to recover. I need. I mean, what is that? About a month away or more?
Yeah, roughly.
I can't hang out with JT more than like.
Well, get this. JT may not be able to come because I think JT's making an appearance in Las Vegas with his wife. So I think it may be Skeleton Crew down here at the Texas Stampede of Speed, but they got like back to back
and leave from there, and
yeah,
we'll see.
We got the Scott Palmer's Nitro Sideshow on the Friday night.
Shit about hanging out with JT, but then when we can't hang out with him, it's kind of.
I know he's like mad at me, and then I was going to leave Saturday morning. He's like, "Man," which made me feel kind of good, Mike. I was like, "Man, Mike, made me feel bad." Actually,
it wasn't just me. I'm pretty sure everyone in Indy was like, "Where's JT?"
Not Mark Ingersoll.
Tell him what happened real quick before we leave.
He called me, or Chase said, "Hey, Mark wants to talk to you." I go in the trailer and he's like, "Hey, you've got to quit getting my guys so messed up." I'm like, "They're adults, they're fine." And I said, Chase told me I get to tune on something when I'm here. And then Chase goes, "Okay, what do you want to tune on, JT? Let's figure something out here." And I'm like, "I don't know. I've been tuning on your crew all week." and then he started laughing, but no, they're all good people.
Oh,
it's funny. That's why it's so much fun at the races is everybody is so cool,
I think people think I'm crazy when I say, but this is a special group of people. I mean, it really is. This is an incredible community of people that I genuinely feel blessed to be around every time I get the chance to do it. So, hey guys, look for us, the Drag Illustrated crew, Piedmont Dragway, Darlington Dragway. I'm coming up. I guess my next NHRA race will be, when is my next NHRA race? I think it's actually Innis in Vegas. Hoping to get out to the PDRA World Finals in October. What else do we got going on? Then I can't believe it, dude. Is it time to start talking about trade shows? It's just absolutely terrifying.
There's just like not an off season anymore.
No. There's really not, man. I mean, and then there's some opportunity to go over some races overseas. It's an exciting time to be as part of the drag.
30 under 30 nominations.
Oh yeah. Let's touch on that briefly.
The first, while we were in Indy, I believe we already have
1,000.
I think we're at 4 digits already. According to Nate, we're at a record pace for nominations. So go to dragillustrated.com/nominate and nominate your deserving young person. Doesn't matter. Announcer, media, what else? Crew chief,
whatever
driver,
you're doing. Yep.
Doesn't have to be, you have to be racing a top fuel car.
And drag racing. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're involved in the sport of drag racing and you feel you're making a difference, or you feel they're making a difference, we want to know about it. And we do try hard. This is a group of guys that live and eat, sleep, and breathe drag racing. We keep our ear to the ground. We feel like we know a lot of the people that are making a difference or a star waiting in the wings. But there's certainly some stories out there that we may not be aware of. So let us know. Like Mike said, log onto the website, nominate them, reach out to one of us. I've been getting all sorts of emails this week. I appreciate it. I read them all. We share them with the group. It's a labor of love, this Drag Illustrated 30 under 30. It's like really humbling and kind of surreal to see what it's turned into, that it's become a real honor in the sport of drag racing. But again, it goes back to rewarding deserving people.
we'll do the big ceremony at
Yep.
the PRI show. Could be even bigger and better this year. We keep trying to make it better every year. Last year was a high water mark, and we're going to try to top that again this year.
All right, guys. Well, hey, thanks for joining in. Remember, click like, click share, click subscribe. We appreciate you helping us spread the gospel of drag racing, and we will see you next week right here on the Drag Illustrated YouTube channel and Facebook page. Talk to you soon, guys. See you at the drag strip. Appreciate you guys.
Later, y'all.
Thanks, guys.